A lot of people these days use social media, especially Instagram. It's one of those platforms where you can post pictures, connect with friends, and even meet new people. I've always had a small following on there, about 200 or so followers. I live in a small town, so that was quite a lot for people here. It wasn't unusual for me to get new followers, but one night something happened that I still can't forget. I was watching a movie when my phone buzzed. I checked it and saw that a girl named Lucy had just followed me. I clicked on her profile out of curiosity. She was a stunning girl with long brown hair and a bunch of travel photos. She had over 3,000 followers, and it looked like a genuine account. Lots of likes, tons of comments from people, and even some heart emojis from guys I'm sure she didn't know. I figured she was one of those people who followed random accounts, so I didn't think much of it. As I was scrolling through her photos, I got a direct message from her. She said, "Hey, I don't usually do this, but I thought you were really cute." I smiled a little at the compliment and replied, "Thanks, I think you're cute too." We ended up talking about all sorts of things, our favorite movies, books, and music. The conversation just flowed really easily. After chatting for a bit, Lucy gave me her number and we decided to meet up the next evening. We picked a nice cafe downtown and I was both excited and nervous. I'd never met someone like this through Instagram before, and I didn't know what to expect. I got ready, went to the cafe, and waited for her to text me when she arrived. But then, about 15 minutes before our meetup, I got a message from Lucy saying her car had broken down and she needed help. I was a little surprised, but still offered to help. I called her immediately, but the call didn't go through. She just kept texting me, describing where she was. At first, I thought it was a little strange, but then I checked her Instagram again to see if anything seemed off. Her account was full of photos with friends and she had no signs of being fake. So I figured I'd go help her out. I drove to the spot she described, which was out in a quiet area near the woods. As I pulled up, I saw her car, an old, rusty blue sedan, parked off the road with the hood popped open. There was no sign of Lucy anywhere. I tried calling again, but my signal was awful, and it didn't go through. The woods around the car were dark, and I had a feeling something wasn't right. Still, I walked over to the car to see if she needed help with anything. I knocked gently on the window, hoping she was inside, but there was no answer. I tried again, calling out her name, but there was no movement from inside the car. The only thing I could see was the blacked-out windows. I was starting to feel uneasy, so I texted her. "Where are you?" "I'm about to leave." As I walked back toward my car, I saw the driver's side window slowly crack open. My heart skipped a beat as a hand reached out from the window and started motioning for me to come closer. The hand was large, with a rough, weathered look. It wasn't Lucy's hand. My gut instinct told me something was horribly wrong. I quickly turned around and sprinted back to my car. My heart was racing as I sped off down the road. I made a couple of sharp turns and glanced back in my rearview mirror. To my horror, I saw a car following me with its lights off. My fear spiked. I took a few more turns, trying to lose it. Eventually, I lost the car, but my mind was still racing. When I got home, I checked Instagram again, but Lucy had already blocked me. A few weeks later, I found out that Lucy's account had been hacked by a creepy guy. Apparently, he had been using her photos to trick guys into meeting up with him. I later heard from others that this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. I was lucky that I hadn't gotten any closer or fallen into whatever plan he had in mind. It was a weird and unsettling experience, and it made me a lot more cautious about who I trust online. I had an Instagram account with about 1,100 followers, and I kept it public because I liked sharing pictures with my friends and getting likes. My page wasn't anything special, but it was fun to connect with people, even though most of them were strangers. I would often get random likes and comments, but one comment stood out. It was from a man I didn't recognize. I had posted a picture of myself at the beach wearing a swimsuit with a friend, and the comment was just 3 flame emojis. I clicked on his profile and it was pretty odd. He only had a few pictures and was following more people than were following him. He looked older, maybe in his 40s or 50s, and his selfies didn't feel very genuine. I wasn't too bothered, thinking he was just some guy who liked my picture. But then, after every new post, I started seeing comments from him. One said, "Hot," which felt a little uncomfortable, but I let it slide. Then a few days later, I posted another picture and he didn't comment. Instead, he sent me a direct message. The message said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you're beautiful, even though I'm much older than you, LOL." I replied with a simple "lol, thanks," hoping he wouldn't say anything else. But of course he did. He wrote, "I would kill to meet a girl like you." I was really creeped out but didn't block him. I thought, what's the harm? I'll just ignore him. Things went on like this for a while. The man kept commenting on my photos, sometimes saying, "You're so beautiful," or "You and your friends are cute." It made me uneasy, but I didn't block him. Then one day he commented on a picture I posted with my sister in front of our house. That was the final straw. I quickly deleted the comment and blocked him. I thought that would be the end of it. Later that day, my sister and I were home alone. I was in the bathroom doing my nails and getting ready to head out. I noticed a car I didn't recognize pull up in front of our house. It was a black car with dark tinted windows, parked just outside. I couldn't see who was inside, but it looked odd. Our street is quiet, and no one ever drives down it unless they live nearby. The car didn't move, and the headlights went off, but no one got out. I didn't think much of it at the time, but made a mental note of it. When it was time to leave, I got in my car and noticed the same car still parked in front. I slowly drove past it, but still couldn't see who was inside. It was a weird feeling, but I shrugged it off. I went to a friend's house and hung out for a while. I wasn't drunk, but I had a few drinks, and by the time I drove home, I was tipsy. When I got back, the car was still parked in front of the house. I parked my car and texted a few friends to let them know I was home safe. As I walked up to the house, I glanced at the car again, trying to see if anyone was in it. It was dark, and the windows were so tinted that I couldn't tell. I got to the front door, but as I was about to unlock it, I suddenly felt scared. Something about that car just felt wrong. I rang the doorbell over and over, hoping my sister would hear me, but she didn't answer. I ended up kneeling down to look for my keys, which had fallen just inside the door. That's when I saw my sister's bedroom door was wide open. The lights were off, and it felt strange. I tiptoed inside, and that's when I heard a faint sound. I stopped, straining to hear, and then realized it was whispering. My sister was hiding in the closet, looking terrified. I opened the closet door, and she quickly put her finger to her lips, signaling for me to be quiet. She didn't say anything, but I could see she was shaking. I gently pulled her out of the closet and pushed the door shut. Then I froze. There, standing in the middle of her room, was a man. He didn't move, and I couldn't tell if he was facing us. My sister and I screamed and ran as fast as we could down the stairs. I heard footsteps behind us, heavy stomps, as the man chased us. We sprinted to my car and managed to lock the doors just as he reached us. He tried to open the door, but when he realized it was locked, he started banging on the window with his shoulder. My sister was crying loudly, and I was panicking, but somehow I kept my wits about me. I started the car, honked the horn, and drove away, trying to get the neighbors' attention. The man quickly ran back to his car, the black car I had seen earlier, and I thought he was going to chase us, but instead, he sped off down a different street. We quickly turned around and went back home, shaken but safe. I called our parents and then the police. They later told us the man had climbed up a ladder and broken into the house through an upstairs window. He'd been stalking me on Instagram, and somehow, he figured out where I lived after I posted a picture of me and my sister with our house number in the background. I gave the police the man's Instagram account, but when I checked it, he had already deleted it. He blocked me, and there was nothing more the police could do because I couldn't remember his username. After that night, I made my Instagram private, only accepting requests from people I knew. I've become much more cautious about what I post and who I interact with. It's a terrifying feeling, knowing that a stranger could be watching you without you even realizing it. A few weeks ago, something happened that completely freaked me out. Before I tell you what happened, let me give you some background. For a while, I had been hearing this strange noise late at night. It wasn't loud, but it was clear enough to make me uneasy. Every time I'd try to fall asleep or just hang out in my room with the light on, I'd hear this soft tap on my window. At first, I thought it was just bugs flying into the glass, but it happened so often, at least 2 or 3 times a week, that I started to get nervous. It didn't sound like a tap at all. It was more like something was scraping or pressing against the window for a second. I finally told my dad about it, but of course he just brushed it off. He said, "It's probably nothing, just some bugs." So I let it go for a few days, thinking maybe I was overreacting. But then one night, everything changed. I got a text from someone I didn't know very well, just a guy from an old class I had taken. Somehow he'd convinced me to give him my phone number, and he sent me a message that made my stomach drop. "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we used to have class together. I just wanted to show you something I found, and if you don't know about it, it's pretty disturbing." He included a link at the end of the message. Curious, I clicked it, and it took me to an Instagram profile titled MT Unofficial. My initials are MT, but that wasn't the part that made my heart race. The profile picture was one of me. It was a candid shot I never remembered anyone taking. I scrolled down, and there were 45 photos, each one of me. Some of them were normal pictures that I had taken myself, but others, they were completely different. There were photos of me sitting in my car, walking down the street, and even at the beach. And then the more recent pictures made my blood run cold. There were photos of me in my backyard, pictures taken through my window, ones where I was sitting at my desk doing homework, and some where I was just texting. The worst ones? A picture of me in my room, in my underwear. I felt sick. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. The photos weren't just random either. They had likes and comments. Some comments were creepy, like, "Go for it," or "She's hot." But the worst part? The captions. They were things like, "The love of my life," or "I just like to watch her." My stomach twisted in knots as I read through them. And then, I heard it again. The faint scrape or tap on my window. That same noise that had been happening for weeks. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized then that it wasn't just a coincidence. It was happening for a reason. My mind raced as I pieced everything together, and I completely lost it. I screamed as loud as I could, terrified and shaking. My dad rushed in looking worried, and when he saw me in that state, he pulled me into his arms. I showed him the Instagram page and told him about the noises. He looked at the screen, his face going from concern to shock to pure anger. He ran outside immediately, yelling and looking around for whoever had been stalking me. When he came back inside, he called the police. I gave them all the details, including the Instagram account, and asked them to track it. The police sent a request to Instagram, but by the time it was processed, the account had been deleted. Thankfully, Instagram was able to recover some of the information, and they traced the account back to an old iPod Touch. But, as luck would have it, the device was impossible to track. It had either been destroyed or had its Wi-Fi turned off, and they couldn't find out who had used it. I was in complete shock. My dad, seeing how shaken up I was, said he was planning to move us out of the house within the month. Since that night, I haven't heard any more noises, but I'm still incredibly cautious. I keep all my blinds shut 24/7, and I'm always checking my surroundings when I leave the house. It's been a huge wake-up call. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that you can never be too careful. Keep your Instagram private and always be aware of what's going on around you. You never know who's watching. If you enjoyed this creepy story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support really helps us bring more thrilling and terrifying tales to life. By liking and subscribing, you're helping us create more enjoyable horror stories just for you. We've got so many more spine-chilling adventures coming your way, so make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and remember, the more you engage,